Once upon a time, in a small town nestled between the mountains and the desert, there lived a humble woodcutter named Ali Baba. He was not rich, nor was he known for any great deeds or wealth. He lived a simple life, earning just enough to provide for his wife and children. Every day, he would venture into the nearby forest, cutting down trees and gathering wood to sell in the market. Though his life was hard, Ali Baba was content with what little he had, for he was a kind and honest man. One day, as Ali Baba was deep in the forest, chopping wood as usual, he heard the distant sound of horses' hooves pounding against the earth. Curious and a little fearful, he climbed a nearby tree to get a better view. From his perch high in the branches, Ali Baba saw a great cloud of dust rising in the distance, and soon, a band of 40 men on horseback came into view. They were a fearsome sight, with swords gleaming at their sides and turbans wrapped tightly around their heads. Ali Baba recognized them immediately. They were the 40 Thieves, infamous across the land for their raids and robberies. He had heard stories of their wealth and brutality, and he knew that if they found him, they would surely kill him. Ali Baba held his breath and watched as the thieves rode to a large rock formation at the base of a cliff. Their leader, a tall man with a thick black beard and piercing eyes, dismounted his horse and approached the rock. Ali Baba watched in amazement as the man raised his arms and called out in a loud voice, "Open sesame." To Ali Baba's astonishment, the rock slowly began to move, revealing a hidden entrance to a cave. The thieves led their horses inside, one by one, and as the last man entered, the rock closed behind them, sealing the entrance once more. Ali Baba remained hidden in the tree, hardly daring to breathe. He waited for what seemed like hours, until finally, the rock opened again, and the thieves emerged from the cave. They mounted their horses and rode off into the distance, disappearing as quickly as they had come. When he was sure they were gone, Ali Baba climbed down from the tree and cautiously approached the rock. He stood before it, his heart pounding with excitement and fear. Could it be true? Had he just discovered the secret hideout of the 40 Thieves? Muttering the words he had heard the leader say, Ali Baba took a deep breath and called out, "Open sesame." To his amazement, the rock began to move, just as it had for the thieves, and the entrance to the cave was revealed. Trembling with anticipation, Ali Baba stepped inside. What he saw inside the cave took his breath away. Piles upon piles of gold coins, glittering jewels, and fine silks filled the cavern from floor to ceiling. There were chests overflowing with riches beyond imagination, more wealth than Ali Baba had ever dreamed of. He could hardly believe his eyes. This was the treasure of the 40 Thieves, accumulated through years of robbery and plunder. Ali Baba knew that he could not take too much, for if the thieves discovered that someone had entered their hideout, they would surely come after him. So he gathered a small amount of gold coins, just enough to help his family live comfortably for the rest of their lives. He filled a few sacks, being careful not to take more than he could carry, and then he called out, "Close sesame." The rock moved back into place, sealing the entrance to the cave once more. Ali Baba hurried home, his mind racing with thoughts of the treasure he had found. When he arrived, he told his wife everything that had happened. She could hardly believe it, but when Ali Baba showed her the sacks of gold, her disbelief turned to joy. They were no longer poor. They could live in comfort and never worry about money again. However, Ali Baba knew that they had to be careful. If word got out about the treasure, the thieves would surely come after them. He made his wife swear to keep the secret, and together, they buried the gold in a safe place where no one would find it. But as luck would have it, Ali Baba's brother, Qasim, who was much wealthier but also greedy and envious, soon noticed that Ali Baba's fortunes had changed. Curious and suspicious, Qasim pressed his brother for answers. At first, Ali Baba tried to deflect his questions, but Qasim was persistent, and eventually, Ali Baba told him everything about the cave and the treasure of the 40 Thieves. Qasim, overcome with greed, could hardly contain his excitement. He insisted on going to the cave himself to claim a share of the treasure. Despite Ali Baba's warnings to be cautious, Qasim was determined to take as much as he could. The next morning, he set off for the forest with 10 donkeys and sacks to fill with gold. When Qasim arrived at the cave, he stood before the rock and called out, "Open sesame." The rock moved aside, and Qasim eagerly entered the cave. Inside, he was overwhelmed by the sheer abundance of wealth. He began filling his sacks with gold, piling more and more onto his donkeys. But as he greedily stuffed the sacks, he lost track of time. When he was finally ready to leave, he stood before the rock and tried to recall the magic words. But in his panic and excitement, he could not remember them. He called out, "Open barley. Open wheat." But the rock remained firmly in place. Qasim tried again and again, but the rock would not move. Realizing he was trapped, he grew frantic. In his desperation, he did not notice the sound of hoofbeats approaching outside. The thieves had returned. When the 40 thieves found Qasim inside their cave, they were furious. They knew that someone had discovered their secret hideout, and they wasted no time in making sure Qasim would never leave the cave alive. The leader of the thieves ordered his men to kill Qasim, and they left his body inside the cave as a warning to anyone who might try to steal from them again. When Qasim did not return home, his wife grew worried and went to Ali Baba for help. Fearing the worst, Ali Baba set out to find his brother. When he reached the cave and called out the magic words, the rock opened, and inside, he found Qasim's lifeless body. Grieving for his brother, Ali Baba carried the body home, and with the help of Qasim's wife, they buried him in secret, so no one would know how he had died. Ali Baba knew that the thieves would be searching for whoever had discovered their hideout. He and his family had to be cautious, but fate was on his side. The leader of the thieves, determined to find the intruder, disguised himself as an oil merchant and came to Ali Baba's town. He brought with him 40 large oil jars, each one containing a thief hidden inside, ready to attack when the time was right. The leader of the thieves planned to strike in the middle of the night, but Ali Baba's clever servant, Morgiana, grew suspicious of the strange oil merchant. When she discovered the thieves hiding inside the jars, she devised a plan to protect her master. Morgiana quietly filled each jar with boiling oil, killing the thieves inside without making a sound. When the leader of the thieves realized his plan had been foiled, he tried to flee, but Morgiana was one step ahead of him. She caught him before he could escape and brought him before Ali Baba. Grateful for Morgiana's bravery and quick thinking, Ali Baba rewarded her and ensured that his family would remain safe from the thieves. From that day on, Ali Baba and his family lived in peace and prosperity, never forgetting the lessons they had learned about greed, caution, and the value of loyalty and cleverness. Ali Baba never returned to the cave of the 40 thieves, for he knew that the wealth he had was enough. And so, the tale of Ali Baba and the 40 thieves became a story passed down through generations, the reminder of the dangers of greed and the power of wit and courage.